I am Lewis Pope. I am the head security nerd at Enable. So I came from the MSP space myself. I've went from break fix to managed services in about 6 years with the MSP I was with. I'm an SSCP, so system certified security practitioner. So what I eat, breathe, and sleep right now is security. So I will talk about things, and hopefully I will talk about them in actionable ways for you, not just the larger grand scheme of things. Actually go through how do you actually implement some of the things we talk about. Everybody is on mute, and that's just so we can get through the content today quickly. But of course, the question section is always open. So if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to throw questions in there and I'll answer those as we go. If you come up with something that I can't answer during the middle of the session, I'll just reach out to you afterwards to get that answered for you. So what are the office hours? For the ones that are here for the first time, there are monthly sessions that are focused on security. We go over recent Microsoft Patch Tuesday releases, review any significant out-of-band updates that might have came out from Microsoft, cover any recent security news that's worthwhile, discuss new and upcoming security features from our side if there are any, a couple of cookbook items that we'll go over that we'll point out for the new ones that we may have available that are relevant to security or cybersecurity, the Q&A on the end, and hopefully it's all with the goal of getting you where your operations are more secure or more sufficient. So first, just going over recent security news. I'm not going to dive too deep into security news because it's been almost the same thing over and over and over again for about the past 15 or 20 days. It's just been different ransomware after different ransomware after different ransomware. The ones that are in the most immediate ones in the past few days that have made noise are a NAS ransomware attack by Ecorax. It is hitting Synology and QNAPs. With the QNAPs, it is taking advantage of a backdoor account that exists on the QNAP devices. On the Synology devices, it's just a brute force attack. So for the QNAPs, update software and pull them off of public facing networks if you can. On the Synology, I'll pull them off of public facing internet if you can, or just make sure you've got your secure passwords or some other tertiary identification going there to keep somebody from just brute force attacking the Synologies. And then there's another Synology based NAS attack that's being called Stealth Walker. It's a brute force attack, but the difference is instead of just dropping ransomware, this one is also enrolling the device into a role as a botnet as part of their attacks. Encrypts the NAS. Synology is the prime target at the moment, but there's no reason why they can't switch targets to other vendors or other models. So again, this is back to the making sure default passwords are changed. You're using significantly complex and long passphrases and passwords, and that you're not exposing things out to the internet if you don't have to. So for Patch Tuesday this month, well, Patch Tuesday this month is significantly lighter than it was last month. Last month was about 114 vulnerabilities that were addressed during Patch Tuesday. This month, we only have 44. 7 of those are rated as critical. 1 is rated as active exploitation. So our workloads for the month should not be as much as they were last month with dealing with patches and updates. Again, as I always point out, let's get some perspective on what that really means when we're talking about the patches and vulnerability. So there were a total of 44 vulnerabilities announced by Microsoft that were receiving patches. whenever you consider how many different patches there could possibly be for the different versions of OSs that are available, supported and non-supported and extended support, it goes up to 150 possible different combinations of patches for different OSs. So this is this is what the point of patch management is about, so that you have a centralized way to manage patching across the board, so that you're not having to deal with the complexity and the logistical headache of figuring out where the 850 different patches that Microsoft released go. Now, Windows Update is, done good to automate that for us and made it simple, WSUS servers. But if you're going to do it, charge for it as a service, monitor, manage it, and be able to verify it, you need a patch management solution. And this number is also useful for anybody if you ever want to point out why it is that you do patch management as a service, why you charge for it, why you design it and build it out the way you do. Is because of this this little core piece of knowledge that it can get complicated. Our tools and our technology make it relatively simple for us nowadays, but it's still a complex process that it's undertaking for us. On the vulnerability. So what should you be prioritizing this month? So these are the vulnerabilities that were announced that had patches for them, and we've got them ranked by, instead of the traditional severity rating, we're prioritizing these based on their exploitability. So whenever Microsoft releases patches and they start declaring their vulnerabilities that they have patches released for, they give them two ratings. They give them a severity rating and a temporal severity rating. Well, the severity rating is the traditional way that most people patch on. They say, all right, I'm going to patch the critical patches automatically, and then anything else, well, we'll just get those at some point, someday maybe, or maybe you only do criticals and importance. But usually that's the way it works for most environments. You just go, we're going to do the criticals, everything else, we might get to it. But that's just the severity of how much damage the vulnerability could allow to happen in the environment if it happens. The temporal severity is closer aligned to, well, how likely is it to happen? So it's one of those things of, well, getting hit by lightning is going to be a much worse experience, but you're much more likely to be involved in a car accident. So you take extra precautions to prevent that car accident, where you typically don't take a lot of extra precautions to prevent that lightning strike. So same mentality here of, this is why you check the exploitability of a vulnerability to figure out how likely it is that vulnerability is to be used. And that should also be a part of your judgment of your process for deciding what patches should be installed in what priority order. So anything that's labeled exploitation detected means, well, it's actually out in the wild and being used. That usually means that it is a 0 day that Microsoft is releasing the vulnerability and the vulnerability information and the patch information on the same day. Those are things that you definitely should have number one up on the top of your list. And here, well, it does coincide with the severity ratings, in the sense that it's a high severity rating. So I had a score higher of 7.9, but it's actually being exploited, which makes that take priority. Then you have the other ones here that are marked as exploitation more likely for the month. And you'll see they have a collection of high severities, medium, and critical. So you can see how if you only focus on the severity rating, you could be missing out on applying some important remediations and mitigations in your environments. So I encourage you, if you have been traditionally only looked at the severity rating, or like if you're using our RMM and our Essential and you just have it set up to say, all right, criticals are automatic and they're being installed within 7 days, and then everything else just gets collected later. there might be some room for improvement there. On cumulative updates, not a lot of anything special in the cumulative updates this month. Regular roll up of security updates, non-security fixes for game mode and power plan performance issues. They also, the biggest thing though, is they made some changes to the point and print behavior. So after the updates from this month, admin users can no longer install print drivers. So that may cause some issues in some environments based on what are your traditional practices are, what are clients what do you do for your clients? What are their responsibilities? What are your responsibilities? How does this usually work? You may have to change up your ticket submissions, your help desk workflows, your pre-triage of ticket workflows. You may have to adapt that for this new reality. There's also a question that came in, where do you get exploitation more likely? So the exploitation more likely rating is just another one of the pieces of metadata that Microsoft gives out whenever they push out their Patch Tuesday information. This is just the exploitability. This is just another field in the metadata of the information they release. And if you're interested in tracking that down and taking a look at it, if you check out the handout area, and this is something for anybody that's new, first time here, there's the handout section in GoToWebinar. There'll be a security office hours handout for August. Download that. There will be a bunch of links in there for a bunch of resources. And one of the things that I have links in there for is the Microsoft Security Center's update page and some of their other places that Microsoft is pushing this information out that I leverage to make all the to pull this information from, so I can format it and make it in a little bit more easily digestible format for people. All right, again, cumulative updates, nothing too special there, except for they did remove the security service stack updates have been pulled out of the cumulative updates. It'll be an independent update going forward, but that'll be something to be mindful of. And then the security servicing stack update is the Windows update processes and services themselves. They have received some updates over the past 2 or 3 cumulative updates. From this point on, they're breaking it out as individuals, apparently, going forward. So that'll be something to be mindful of. Another reminder for everybody, just Windows 10, 1909, 1803, and 1809 are at end of service now. So that'll be something, make sure you're aware of that in your environments, what you have floating out there, what you should be addressing, what you should be bringing up to date. Where do you have opportunity for projects to go out and replace these with updated systems, all that. What's the business angle you can take on any of these, if there is a business angle? But they are end of life. If you can, you should be getting rid of them. Okay, a question came in on the N-Central way to view the exploitability data and identify patches that need to be prioritized. No, so the inside of N-Central and RMM, the metadata that's being displayed and leveraged for the decision-making process is that severity level. So, what is the severity level of the patch itself that's been assigned? That is not cross-correlated in any way back to the base vulnerability that patch is for, and what the exploitation likelihood of that vulnerability is. That's something you have to at the moment, that is just something you manually go in and inspect. You find out that, yep, and this is what the links that are in the handout are useful for. You go in, you'll see that, all right, these are the vulnerabilities that are marked as being exploitation detected or exploitation more likely. Let me see what patches Microsoft recommends or has labeled as being the patches that mitigate or remediate this vulnerability. Then you've got your list of patches you're supposed to be making sure are applied and in your environment. So no, there's not an easy way that's already built into either RMM or N-central that does this. It's just it's partly because, well, one, we don't have the function built in. Two, when Microsoft releases the actual patches themselves, there's no metadata in them that correlates to the likelihood of exploitation. So Patch Tuesday issues, have we had any so far? No, that's the short answer. So last time I checked at about 11 o'clock last night, there were no major issues being reported with any Patch Tuesday updates. So usually we get some good indications fairly quickly on if there's something going wrong, but nothing's bubbled to the top yet. If you want a good place to go monitor for that type of information, though, there is the Microsoft source of it, and again, that is in the handout. But there's also the Reddit Patch Tuesday mega thread on the sysadmin subreddit. Great place to go watch every month. They always have a brand new thread for Patch Tuesday. There are tons of internal IT admins, MSPs in there pushing a bunch of really good information about what's happening. So if you ever want to get if you want the fastest heads up that you can possibly get because a patch is causing complications, that's probably going to be the place to get it from. Cookbook. So we've got some new items in the cookbook this month, and again, link to the cookbook is in the handout. We've for anybody that's not seen the cookbook, we have an automation cookbook out on the success.enable.com website, where we have PowerShell scripts and automation manager policies that we've created, that other partners have created, and we've put them up there as an available, here's a giant repository of automation and scripts that you can add into RMM or N-central to expand functionality. So for those who don't have the skills or the time on their teams to be able to create automations, it's a good place to go to get some pre-made ones. We have some good ones that have been placed in there recently. One is the disable end user Windows update access. So whenever you have RMM or N-central installed on an endpoint and it takes over the patch management for that endpoint, an end user can still click on the Windows update, click on the check for updates button, and the system can find new voluntary updates, C and D channel updates. If you're unfamiliar with C and D channel updates, short story, Patch Tuesday are B channel, C and D channel are out of band updates or voluntary updates that you selectively enroll for by pushing the check for updates button, where Microsoft is basically turning you into a guinea pig. Here, have these patches that we're going to be pushing out on next Patch Tuesday, but we're giving them to you 2 weeks, 3 weeks early so you can test it out for us. And per Microsoft's guidance, IT professionals are not supposed to be applying those updates. So that's one of the reasons why we kind of stick to just the Patch Tuesday updates with the RMM and N-central patch management. But if a user clicks on the update, check updates button, they're going to see that there are these new patches available for your system, and that might cause some uncomfortable conversations where you now have to explain to them what C and D channel updates are, why you don't mess with them, and why it's not a concern. So this is a way for you to just disable access to that so the client can't push those buttons, they can't mess around with it, and you don't have to deal with those situations. The registry hive monitoring. So this is a no, back to that. This is a set of monitoring scripts that will monitor the registry hive files on your system to make sure that they have the correct permissions. There was a vulnerability revealed last month that had been introduced since multiple sets of versions of Windows OS prior, I think all the way back to like 1809 or further, where there were read permissions on those files whenever they shouldn't be read permissions on those files for certain users. This is a way to monitor to make sure that read is not there on the ACLs for that for any of those files. Why are you concerned about that? Well, the registry hive is where a bunch of information is, of course, contained about the system, the settings. There's also hashed passwords and other information and databases stored in there. So an attacker having access to that and being able to read it is bad. You want to monitor to make sure that that read permission isn't there because, well, it's bad. It's adding vulnerabilities into your environment unnecessarily. This can give you a heads up and you can go remediate it. Supposedly Microsoft has fixed this for us going forward with the cumulative updates and I believe in other specific updates. So it shouldn't be a problem going forward, but it's still something worth having as part of your baseline monitoring. There's also a way to use the local security settings on a device to enable user password complexity. This is a poor man's Active Directory. So instead of using Active Directory to control this, you can use RMM or Essential to control it as a task. So this one just enables complexity. You can also, you could easily create a check to monitor the complexity as well. Updated AV status monitor for Essential. So if you're using any third-party AV solutions that we don't have integrated directly into Essential, we have a nice AV additional monitor that you can add for AV statuses. There are a ton of solutions in here. So if you've ever been unhappy with the fact that you can't monitor a specific AV solution, it may be in this AV monitor that we've got up there. Next poll is for those that have been here before. So for anyone that's been here before, how do you find, and you've had a chance to check out the new handout layout. I have updated the look and feel of the handout. It also has a nicer table of the vulnerabilities with their severity ratings and their exploitation likelihood listed there. But if this, take a look there and add the handout and give me some feedback there as well. Now, is this, if this, let me know, is this your first time you've been a security officer and you've never seen one of these before, or has it improved? Has it stayed the same? Has it degraded over time? And again, that'll help me figure out, again, as I make these changes, is it appreciated? Is it worthless? Am I saving anybody any time? Because we are also building out some other security related things, and I'm gonna while we're waiting for some of those answers to come in and before we get into the Q&A stretch, just to let everybody know, we do have some updated, actually next week, we have 3 security related boot camps we'll be running. There's a security boot camp, an advanced security boot camp, and a mail assure boot camp. So the security boot camp is great for just about anybody on your team. Tier 1 support technicians, operations managers, sales, marketing, just about anybody on your team. The security boot camp that we'll be running is worthwhile to attend for everybody at least once. The advanced security boot camp is going to be more for your, for your technicians and your engineers and your ops managers and people like that. And then also a Melisher boot camp that's coming up. But we also have in the future, probably, we're not quite sure, but it's going to be within the next 2 months or so, we're going to be doing another boot camp that is all about building your services to a cybersecurity framework. So what's the whole, so how do you, starting from pretty much scratch, how do you find a framework? How do you decide which framework you should use? And then how do you build out to that framework? It's going to be all about that getting started part of the journey. And it's also going to be done in conjunction with our head marketing and sales head nerd. So this is going to be it's going to be half very technical, half very much business side. So if you are a one-man operation or a smaller operation, this has the potential to get you years ahead of where you may have grown naturally. If you're already a well-established team, this is a great way to, come in, tighten up what you're doing and making sure that you have, you're on a good trajectory, that you're doing what you should be doing, and you're not missing out on opportunities. And yeah, so let me grab, since this question came out, and yeah, that was another thing I wanted to talk about as well, since this, came out since I finished out the presentation yesterday. Microsoft also announced another print spooler 0-day bug. So yay, print nightmare continues. It's another vulnerability that allows for taking over a system and gaining system access by abusing print services. Only mitigation at the moment is the same mitigation has been since the beginning, turning off the print spooler service. So this is one of those, yes, the severity is high, but how likely is it to be taken advantage of? Well, let's actually look at that. We're going to go search this real quick. We're going to find the Microsoft Security Center's information about the vulnerability, and we'll actually check it out. We'll see what they say about it. Then this is kind of the process I have to go through whenever I'm building out these charts and going through the vulnerabilities, is, having to go through and read this stuff. And while that's going, I'm going to retrieve a link real quick. I'm going to throw that in the questions as an answer here in a second. That is going to be a link for the boot camp, so you can go sign up for those if you are interested. And here we go. All right, so here's this brand new fresh CVE that Microsoft gave us yesterday afternoon, and it's rated as a 7.3 on the CVSS severity, so that makes it a high, but the temporal rating is 6.8. So that's the, whenever you start considering exploitability, it's marked as exploitation more likely. So they're saying we have not seen this being used out in the wild anywhere as part of a documented attack, but we expect that somebody somewhere at some point, relatively soon on the scale of things, like, maybe a month or so, is going to start using this as part of an attack. So you need to go ahead and make sure that you're applying it. And again, this gets into the whole, the severity is only 7.3. That's not going to be a critical, but they're still telling you, hey, you need to apply this though, because chances are good somebody's going to abuse it. And that link for, still hunting for that link, guys. Give me a second. And we need the boot camps. Boot camps, boot camps, boot camps. Here we go. So I'm going to throw a link into the questions. I'm going to send to all. There we go. That should take you to a boot camps registration page where it'll have all of the boot camps listed that are upcoming, and you can register for those. Here are the ones I've got coming up. We got the security ones coming up next week. And then September 23rd is whenever we're doing the building services to a cybersecurity framework. And then there's also, of course, the boot camps that the other head nerds are offering. So in central patch management, RMM patch management, optimization for RMM and in central. There's an operational efficiency, intro to PowerShell, intro to backup and API. There are tons of boot camps we're doing in here all the time. And most of the time, these boot camps are going above and beyond just the, we're going to talk to you about the documentation of the product and how you do ABC. We're getting further out into, all right, you're out in the field, you've got a tool, but a tool alone does not build a house. So let's talk about how you're going to build that house. We'll kick back over to the Q&A segment here. If anybody's got any questions, I've been answering those as we've been going along. Haven't missed anything, I don't think, but if I missed a question, let me know and I'll swing back around and answer that. This says, unfortunately, this has been a shorter security hour session because, well, it was actually relatively a quieter last end of July when it came to security, and not too much in the way of giant surprises this month. So there wasn't as much to talk about. Ransomware was, again, the top story of most things. We even had an Accenture ransomware attack apparently that's being reported as of yesterday. So that'll be somebody else in our, in our backyard basically being hit. So it should be another wake-up call. All right. I don't see too many questions. I don't see any new questions coming in on the chat. So again, feel free, ask any questions in there. If it's something, even if it's a question you want to ask, but you don't want a public response for it, feel free to throw that in the chat, and I'll just reach out to you later and answer that for you over email or some other way. If you need to reach out and contact me directly, you can do that at lewis.pope@n-able.com. You can also, and I need to add this to the end of the deck, there's also, you can reach out to me through Twitter, LinkedIn, as well as I'm out on Twitch doing some streaming every once in a while of content. I may be doing some PowerShell scripting. I may be doing some other RMM or N-Central, Melisher, risk intelligence, or some other project or configuration work. So it's worth dropping by every once in a while and checking out there if you're interested more in the nitty gritty, in the trench stuff. But I've got my contact information up right there on my bio slide. So again, it's also in the handout. So if you don't want to copy it down off the screen, it's also in the handouts. I've got a question coming in about Passportal real quick, and I'm going to go. Let's see if I can't log in. And this is a great opportunity again to point out status.enable.com. So if you're not subscribed to the feeds here from our status page, do so. There's the service status notifications and release notes notifications. And if there is a major issue that's being reported, and it's one of those, yes, we know about it, right here it is, and I'll let you know about it. So big giant subscribe button up here. It is worth your time that if you are not signed up, do it now. So right now they're in the investigating phase. It looks like it's affecting Passportal America only at the moment. And we also have some plans, and also we put up our planned schedule maintenance in here. So we have upcoming ones for backup, take control, and Melisher. One on the 14th this month, and then two sets of planned schedules on the 14th. So again, can't recommend enough that you come in here and take advantage of these. There is also supposedly, and I have yet to get in and take advantage of it or figure it out or set it up. There's also supposedly some API available for this if you want to leverage an API to pull information out of here. But of course, you need a web dev on your side at that point to kind of help out with that. All right, and actually it looks like it's already back up. So short outage, hopefully. All right, I haven't seen any additional new questions come in. I'm still going to leave the session open here for another 5 minutes. Again, allow anybody to get some questions in that has those. Hit the boot camps, hit the additional office hours that the other head nerds are offering. There's all types of opportunities to have deeper conversations with somebody on our side about the tools, about being an MSP, about the business itself without it devolving into a sales pitch. So take advantage of us as a resource. That is why they have us here. Anybody that is particularly concerned about security, in the sense of you're concerned about what our stance is, what we do, what we'll be doing going forward. There is we have a public session coming up next month where we're going to be talking about that. You've probably already gotten the email notifications for it. If not, you will be getting some emails for it to go attend it. So look out for it. And that's going to be our official public statement about what we're doing internally concerning security and what we're going to be doing going forward. But if you want a little bit more, you want your opportunity to provide a little input, let me know. We're looking for people to volunteer to be a part of our partner advisory groups. And the partner advisory groups are, they're a group of our partners that advise us on what they need, what they want, what the complications they are having, what they would like to see come out of the tools. So just let me know in the chat if you're interested in it. That way I can get you some of the information about it. We'll be doing a security PAG in the next month or two, and they're usually half review of what's happened recently, what's currently been worked on, what we're going to be working on in the coming future, and then the other half is us asking for feedback. Is this good? Do you think you like it? Is there something about this you would like to change? Those types of things. The sessions have traditionally been a little bit informal. They're getting a little bit more formal as time goes on. So it'll be a little bit of a surprise for both of us how it's really going to turn out. But if you're looking to voice your opinion, this is one of the ways to do it. All right, everybody. No new questions have come in. I've had a few people volunteer for the PAG. So again, feel free to throw your name into the hat there in the questions, and I'll reach out to you with that information later. If you have any questions about anything that we've covered today, and again, you want to go deeper into it, but you want to do it one-on-one, reach out to me via email, LinkedIn, or Twitter. I need to change that to the new enable one. Also, my contact information is also in the handout from the GoToWebinar. along with a bunch of other useful information. So if you have not downloaded that yet, I highly recommend downloading it because one, I have the table in there for the vulnerabilities based on that uh, temporal metric. So how likely is it? So exploitation detected, more likely, less likely. I'll have the ones you should be concerned of probably in here with the links, so you can click on these and go find out what patches are relevant to them. And then also just a bunch of additional resources and links in here for NIST security framework, the CIS controls, additional enable resources, Microsoft resources. So right here, these 3 links are where I pull all of my information about the vulnerabilities and patches for the week. And then just some additional outside resources as well. So if you're always looking for new places to gain some knowledge, um, there's some good places in here to pull information out of. All right, guys, I've gotten a few more people to volunteer for the bag. Thank you. No other real questions have come in. We'll be doing this office hours again, same time. The second, the the Thursday after Patch Tuesday every month. We do it every month at the same time. So make sure you're registered for the forthcoming ones. Um, I'll be taking the feedback today, and again, however if they tell me I'm doing a good job with something, I'll keep doing it. You tell me it sucks, I'll get rid of it. But it's been a pleasure. Hopefully everybody will have smooth patching this month and nothing will cause too much headaches. And hopefully I'll see some of you on the boot camps next week, as well as the security framework coming up in September.